Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Tuesday, July 19th. So today we have the moon in Aries all day. It's a great energy. We want to start fresh. We're bold, we're brave, we're courageous. We want to look forward. We want to start something new, jump into a new chapter. Emotionally, we are locked and loaded. We are fired up. We are kind of teetering on excitement versus, I'm going to say, aggression. We're going to teeter on impulse versus having the patience enough to recognize where we have to do things right in order to start something new. And we always have to manage our emotional energy in Aries because we have a tendency to burn ourselves out. We have a tendency to also throw a little bit of a tantrum if we're not careful, projecting our inner frustrations and irritabilities outward. And today we have two other events really adding to the drama, adding to the intensity. One being Chiron going retrograde. Again, if you haven't listened to the astro forecast for July, I'm going to recommend you do that. And we also, just moments later, have Mercury moving out of Cancer, moving into Leo energy. Now, as we know, anytime that a planet is going from a direct position to a retrograde position, we get a little bit unstable. Things feel a little bit wonky. We do feel just awkward. We can't put our finger on it. We do need a couple of days to adjust. And anytime that we have a planet moving out of one energy and moving into the other, we have to recognize that that planet is at the very last crisis degrees of one energy before starting fresh and entering into the other. Those last crisis degrees can bring a whole lot of urgency and intensity in order to wrap up that particular life lesson. If you need to go back and listen to Mercury in Cancer, please go ahead and do so to see the chapter that we are closing here today, and listen to the astro forecast for Mercury moving into Leo to see what it is that we're going to be dealing with for the next couple of weeks. To add a little bit of spice here to the day, as if that wasn't enough, we are going to have the moon conjunct Chiron, fresh in its retrograde. We'll talk about that here in a second. And we also have this underlying pressure building with the sun opposing Pluto. We'll jump more into that as well. So there are 10 different aspects here today, and 6 of them involve the moon. So the moon in Aries is going to be making a very positive aspect with Pluto. We start the day off with Pluto, we end it with Pluto. We're starting the day off with the moon and Pluto in a very agreeable type of aspect, while we end the day with the sun making a very oppositional, confrontational, conflicting tension aspect with Pluto. So we do have to understand that as the day progresses, things are going to get a little bit deep, a little bit dark, a little bit more intense. But first, the moon in Aries making this favorable aspect with Pluto, who is retrograde in Capricorn, is really pushing us to boss up, to take control, to be better, to improve, to take the reins back in our life, to be the star role in our lives instead of constantly giving our power away to other people. Yes, it can be a little bit fiery, a little bit intense, a little bit passionate. We get that from both the Aries energy, just wanting to charge forward. And of course, the Plutonian energy is all about intense passion and desire. And right now we just have such a thirst, I'm going to say, for something new. We are in an experimental phase. We are exploring our emotions very deeply. We are really examining where it is that we feel powerless and out of control, only to take control and power back. So we start off the day with this very intense energy. It is going to bode very well for us as we move throughout the day, but there is some ups and downs, some ebbs and flows that we are going to have to navigate as well. The moon is going to bump bump into Mars. Mars, of course, rules over Aries energy, but Mars is in the low and slow Earth energy of Taurus. This particular aspect is kind of suggesting that we will have a trigger, an activation take place in our external realm out of our control that does carry the potential to really tick us off, to really irritate us, to really frustrate us. And mostly because things aren't going the way that we would like. Things aren't going fast enough. Things are constantly being blocked and challenged. And we have to understand that Mars, being in Taurus, just wants to roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, and actually start piecing together the vital parts of the foundation in which we have to build in order to get building the house on top of said foundation. But what we're kind of discovering right now is that we're unearthing a lot of trapped emotion, a lot of trapped anger, frustration, a lot of mental blockages as we're kind of, putting the shovel into the ground and preparing the land for the foundation to be poured. We're really, digging up a lot of questionable things in our mental plane, in our emotions. And of course, it's getting the best of us because Mars rules over our physical energy, and we just seem to exert ourselves trying to make something happen, and then we get blocked. Then we get frustrated, and then we have to start the whole process over. So the moon kind of bumping into Mars in this way would suggest that we have to really very, very much be mindful on our emotions. Impulse control is going to be key. We have to understand that, the Aries energy, being the toddler of the zodiac, does have a tendency to throw a tantrum. And even though they get over it quite quickly, does kind of create a mess, a little bit of drama that doesn't need to be there for other people to kind of relish in, experience. And then we have to clean that mess up before we can actually get back to work digging out the earth in order to pour that foundation. Now, here's where things get interesting. 8:28 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Chiron, the wounded healer, going retrograde in Aries. Again, please listen to this astro forecast. I go on to a little bit of a rant on what we can expect for the next 5 months. This is a collective lesson in healing oneself, in addressing mental health issues, in, building the right kinds of support systems, the kind of routines in our life that's going to make sure that we're addressing our inner wounds, especially when it comes to our identity, our self. Many of us going through a reinvention, a rebranding of self, so to speak. And we really do have to take this pause, this time out in order to do the inner reflection work necessary to make sure that we are addressing our deepest, darkest wounds at this time. So that's 8:28. At 8:35 a.m., we have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information and communication, moving out of Cancer energy. So very much in the crisis degree up into that point of time, and moving into Leo. Again, please listen to the astro forecast. This is going to be a very powerhouse energy for us to work with for the next couple of weeks. This is going to change the game. This is going to change our focus. This is going to change our storylines in so many different ways. I definitely want you to absorb the ups and downs and everything in between so that you have a big picture, a well-educated guess, if you will, on how this is going to affect you over the next couple of weeks. So at 12:57, so yeah, we do get a couple of hours there where there's no planetary action whatsoever. At 12:57 p.m., though, we have the moon in Aries coming up to, sitting next to, bumping into, teaming up with Chiron, who just went retrograde. So this is going to feel very, very awkward, very unstable, I would say. This is going to have us a little bit edgy, a little bit, I'm going to say, over anticipating losing or our shit, so to speak, or being triggered or being activated in such a way, because now we're doing a deep introspection within our psyche, within our heart space, because Chiron is retrograde. And there's a lot of impulses that we're having a hard time controlling with the moon being in Aries. A lot of irritation, a lot of frustration, borderline anger. Yes, we want to focus on new chapters, new beginnings, but we're also starting to realize where it is that we are blocking ourselves ourselves by not recognizing some of the unconscious wounds that is technically preventing us from moving forward and improving and growing at the rate that we wish that we were currently at. Again, Aries energy wants us to act now and think about the consequences later, just wants to, make a change and move forward. And we're not really in a position, being in the year of 6, in order to actually do that. So this is very triggering on a lot of different levels. We have Mercury now fresh in Leo energy, making a very, very interesting aspect with Uranus, who is in Taurus. So the interesting part about this is that Uranian energy rules over our highest level intellect. It's basically our crown chakra. It's what connects us to the cosmos, to higher forms of intelligence, while Mercury rules over the lower level intellect, our egoic mental plane, using information, data, statistics, and, evidence from our physical realms to make an informed decision. What's beautiful is that anytime that Mercury and Uranus get along and are interacting in a positive aspect, it means that we have the ability to channel a higher insight, a higher vision, higher intuition, higher form of intelligence coming in from the cosmos, coming in from our higher self, coming in from our guides, and we're able to bring it down into the logical, practical, mental plane that Mercury rules over, and we're actually able to make sense of it, actually able to do something with this information, apply it to our lives, come up with a strategy on how it is that we're actually going to bring some of these elements to life. So now that Mercury is in Leo, we're thinking big, we're thinking grand, we are, ready to speak up, to speak out, to take the spotlight in ways that we shied away from in previous situations. And with this Uranian energy being the aha moment that we need to shift our perspective and shift the paradigm, this is also going to open us up to change, be a little bit more adaptable to a new course, if you will, a new path to this new vision, to this new dream, to this new goal. Shortly after, we have the moon bumping into Uranus, though, in a way that would suggest that there is going to be a little bit of a disruption, wrench thrown into our plans, so to speak. There is going to be some kind of shake up and wake up call in our physical realms, affecting maybe our routines, the plans that we had for the day, maybe our relationship, that maybe there's a power struggle going on, or, somebody wants to speak their truth because, of course, Mercury is in Leo now, so we all want to speak our truth. And maybe this could be a shakeup with money or resources as well. Reason being is that Uranian energy is in Taurus. Taurus rules over our physical circumstances, where routines and relationships and money matters are concerned. And the moon being in Aries is all fired up in both the right and wrong ways. And of course, we are living on edge. We're a little bit irritated, easily frustrated, and having this particular situation pop off outside of our control is likely going to test our energy and emotional management. Shortly after that, we have the moon bumping into the true node, which would suggest that whatever situation popped off, whatever new situations are unfolding, new information coming in, is absolutely going to derail the plans that we thought we had moving forward in the future path in which we've been trying to strategically kind of move through. Now, we haven't had a whole lot of big picture vision. Many of us just getting a couple of pieces, a couple of steps at a time. Again, baby steps are still steps. They still count. But whatever situation is kind of unfolding right now is really making us question how we're supposed to move forward in the path that we thought we were walking with this new information, with this new situation. Now, let's not let this totally derail our mental and emotional stability. It does have a high probability to do so. So we have to be very diligent to act as the observer and just understand that we've seen this coming. We knew it was going to happen, and therefore we're not going to react from ego like this Aries energy wants us to do. Instead, we're going to respond from the observer mentality that we can all have if we were just to understand that, we have to expect these energetic situations to pop off in order for us to truly get comfortable with who it is that we are, what it is that we want, need, and desire, and what it is that we have to do to improve and to grow. So the moon is going to then bump into Venus. the goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure, who is now in Cancer, a very emotional time, super sensitive time. We definitely got a lot going on. If you haven't listened to that astro forecast, please do that. We just had Venus move into Cancer on the 17th, so it is still a fresh energy that we are looking to adapt to. And here's the thing though, the moon being the ruler of the Cancer energy that Venus is in, and Aries, the moon being in Aries, is the masculine energy, the masculine counterpart to this Venus energy. We're in all kinds of opposites and all kinds of oppositions. To make matters even more complicated, the moon in Aries being a fire energy and Venus being in Cancer, a water energy. What do we know about fire and water? Well, if there's too much fire and the fire's too hot, so emotionally speaking, if we're too fired up, too angry, too irritable, too passionate, whatever the case may be, that fired up emotion, we are going to evaporate our emotions in that Cancer energy, right? That's what happens when you apply too much heat to water, is it steams, things get steamy, things get foggy, and then it evaporates and it leaves us absolutely just dry. Now, if we are to apply the right kind of balanced energies to our emotions when thinking about what it is that we want, need, and desire, because that's what Venus is all about. We're trying to reevaluate our value, our worth within ourselves and see how that applies to our relationships and get a better understanding of what it is that we absolutely want, need, and desire for ourselves where relationships are concerned. We can balance these energies out. We're actually tapping into a very, very beautiful, semi-aggressive, but bold and courageous energy on how to pursue new wants, needs, and desires that, of course, Venus needs to get down and dirty in trying to analyze. Her being in Cancer means that we're a little bit more overly attached to the past and the way things were, while the moon in Aries really doesn't want to look back at the past, would prefer just to push forward and create new experiences altogether. So it is going to be a little bit of a conflicting dynamic for us to navigate through, but it can reveal a lot of wants, needs, and desires that we didn't really know that we wanted previous to having this little bit of tension back us up against a wall and make us really analyze what feels good and what does not. And this is when, at 9:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have this underlying backdrop that I spoke about, where the sun is opposing, sitting across from Pluto. Okay, so this energy has been building for, I'm going to say, the last 2 days, but we are in a direct position with the sun in Cancer. Keep in mind, Cancer season is almost over, so we're at the final degrees of Cancer energy, really kind of hitting home the life lessons that we're supposed to be learning in Cancer season. If you forgot what that's all about, listen to the astro forecast. We have Pluto, the great transformer himself, retrograde in Capricorn energy. So what this is doing, the sun, of course, is shining a bright light on what? The darkness, the deep-seated, dark or buried, unresolved emotional matters. Why? Well, because we have to unearth a couple of things. We got Mars over here in Taurus, again, trying to unearth a couple of things before we go ahead and build this beautiful foundation for our future. We have to unearth a couple of things that have just been, floating around underneath the surface of our consciousness through feelings, through tensions in relationships, through not so nice events. We can see the areas of our life that we have just been desperately trying to hold on to and make the same or make what it once was, and still, instead of recognizing where it is that we're being asked to release, to surrender, and of course, give space to have something transform into something better. So this all comes down to power because, of course, The Capricorn energy that Pluto is in is all about power. And we've really been looking at where it is that we've been giving our power away, where it is that we allow other people to have the starring role in the movie, in which is us being very comfortable, again, to take the co-starring role, which we have no business taking. We're constantly giving our power away to people, to situations, to things that don't empower us. This is the shadow aspect. Pluto is the god of the underworld. He likes to illuminate our pain, our suffering, our trauma in order for us to use that as motivation and as a catalyst to inspire us to grow, to be better, to take our power back, to step into a different level of our authority. But it doesn't feel good. And this particular aspect can just shake us to our freaking core, make us feel so freaking uncomfortable that we just want to crawl out of our own skin. But this is absolutely necessary because it puts us in a different level of awareness within ourselves, within what's going on in our unconscious selves. And we have to unearth all of these skeletons that have been buried away in our closet in order for us to stand in our truest power. And this is definitely not going to feel good, very intense. Going to add to the edginess that we've been feeling, really add to the defensiveness that we've been feeling in Cancer season. And with, Mercury just fresh into Leo here today, with Chiron just went retrograde, there is going to be this inner conflict, this inner turmoil that does have the ability to manifest and project itself out into our personal relationships. So it can feel like the world is maybe caving in on you for a very small period of time that seems a lot longer than it actually is. It can feel like you are out of control, like you don't have power over anything. It can feel like you are fighting yourself, the dark versus light, the good versus bad. And we're absolutely in a situation where our inner realms, again, just a reminder, anything that you experience in a personal relationship, a conflict, a misunderstanding, a trigger, an activation, is acting as a mirror for where that primary root problem is alive and well within you. And so if these energies actually get to the point where they are manifesting in a personal relationship in your exterior circumstances, this is a good opportunity for you to see the situation for what it is and then say, okay, so what inside of me is alive and well in order for me to be this bothered, in order for this situation to even arise? This is how we do the shadow work. This is how we do the inner reflection work necessary in order to heal said wounds so that we can have the kind of relationship with other people that we're now having with ourselves. This forces us to boss up. This forces us to take charge. This forces us to implement and create boundaries. And it pushes us, again, our backs to a wall, because that's how most humans actually function in making the changes that we have to make in our world. We have to have our backs put against a wall in order for us to fight back. And unfortunately for us, we are going to have to fight ourselves, our mental narrative, our emotions, our fears, our doubts, our worries, our insecurities, first and foremost, before we're going to be strong and stable enough to fight the external circumstances that are currently pushing us to that wall, making us feel powerless and making us feel like we're lacking control in our own lives. So this isn't going to feel good. I will say that the energy has been building towards this. This is a direct aspect for really only a couple of minutes, but it stays within orb for about the next day. And again, just adding to the different layers of complexities with all of the other changes taking place here today, we have to be very, very, very mindful of our emotional energy because of the moon being in Aries and ready to pop off and just jump into a fight if the opportunity presents itself. Of course, we don't want to do that. We want to rise above. We want to choose to, again, respond from the observer mentality and understand that this is a lesson, that this is a test, and that this is an opportunity for growth and improvement.